Hello, everyone. Welcome to this lecture on cloud-based databases versus traditional databases. So we're going to look at the fundamental differences, benefits, and drawbacks of both approaches. And we're also going to look at use cases, cost implications, and considerations you should keep in mind when choosing between the two. Introduction to databases. Before looking into the differences, let's first clarify what a database is. A database is an organized collection of data that can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. Databases are crucial because almost every software application, website, or enterprise system relies on data storage and retrieval. Over the years, database environments have evolved significantly, moving from on-premises solutions. Uh, what we mean by on-premise solution is you can think of it as traditional databases to more flexible and scalable cloud-based options. Understanding this evolution helps us appreciate why cloud-based databases have emerged and when they are most beneficial. Traditional databases. So now let's first talk specifically about traditional databases. A traditional, or you can think of it as on-premises database, is typically hosted within a company's own servers and data centers. This means the organization owns and maintains uh, the physical hardware being from servers to network equipments. And because the hardware is fixed, these databases can be expensive to scale, and there is a high upfront cost to purchase and set up these servers. Additionally, the internal IT team is responsible for routine maintenance such as backups, patching, updates, and security management. While this setup can offer a more sense of control, it also means more responsibility, a higher barrier to entry, and potential limits on agility. Traditional database types. There are different types of traditional databases. Uh, they are relational databases, which are the most common type, such as Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server, and MySQL. And they organize data into tables with rows and columns. NoSQL databases, such as MongoDB, Cassandra, they are used for large-scale data processing, distributed environments, or unstructured data, and hybrid on-prem environments. This is unique in a sense that some organizations have a blend of multiple on-premises database technologies. So they might use relational databases for transactional data and a NoSQL system for unstructured data. With these traditional options, uh, you have full control over the environment, but you also bear the cost and responsibilities. Now, moving on to cloud-based databases. Um, they are also known as database as a service. So in this model, The database software, hardware, as well as underlying infrastructure are managed by a third-party cloud provider, such as Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. And users interact with the database over the internet and pay only for the resources they consume. Because uh, this third-party cloud provider handles tasks like server provisioning, maintenance, security patching, and backups, organizations using cloud-based databases can significantly reduce administrative overhead, and scaling becomes much easier. And you can often provision more storage or computing power as needed with just a few clicks. Types of cloud-based databases. Um, Basically, these third-party providers offer all types of databases. For example, relational databases include Amazon RDS for MySQL, Postgres, and Azure SQL, Google Cloud SQL, and these resemble traditional relational databases but are managed by the cloud providers. And NoSQL um, databases includes Amazon DynamoDB, Azure Cosmos DB. And these two are really popular, and they are designed for high scalability and flexibility in handling different data models like key value, document, column family, or graph. Um, there is another type called managed service. So some services like Amazon Aurora and Google Cloud Spanner, they what they do is they they combine the benefits of a fully relational model with global scalability. And last category is serverless database. So if you look at products like AWS Aura Serverless, it basically removes the need to even think about provisioning server capacity. So the database itself automatically adjusts compute resources to match workload requirements. So uh, we talked about traditional databases and cloud-based databases. Let's now break down some critical differences between those two. First would be infrastructure ownership. In a traditional setup, the organization owns and manages the servers. In the cloud, you effectively rent computing and storage resources from a cloud provider. Second, scalability and flexibility. So scaling an on-premises database often requires purchasing and installing additional hardware, and this can be costly and time-consuming. In the cloud, you can scale up or down with relative ease, uh, often just by modifying a setting in the management console. Cost model. So traditional databases typically demand heavy initial capital expenditures because you need to buy servers and network, set up all the networks and hire uh, employees to manage that. In contrast, cloud-based databases operate on an operational expense model where you pay for resources as you use them without needing large upfront investments. So this pay-as-you-go approach can be beneficial for startups or projects with workloads that are highly unpredictable. Now, let's continue with the key differences. Maintenance and upgrades. So with on-premise databases, your internal team is responsible for applying patches, performing updates, and resolving hardware issues. In the cloud, many of these tasks are handled by the provider, although you still have to manage database schemas, user access, and so forth. Availability and disaster recovery. Cloud databases often offer higher availability by design. It's because providers have built-in redundancy across multiple data centers. This means disaster recovery can be significantly simpler because you can just replicate your data to another region. Uh, However, on-premise databases require uh, careful planning and a secondary data center if you want to have a robust disaster recovery. Last is security and compliance. So cloud providers, they invest heavily in security controls, but you may still have compliance considerations, such as data residency or industry regulations like uh, HIPAA in the medical field or GDPR or user privacy. So on-premises solutions may offer direct physical control of the hardware, but they also demand more in-house security expertise. So in either case, good security practices and proper configuration are mandatory. Pros of traditional databases. So if we are to highlight the main advantages of traditional on-premises databases, uh, the, there'll be four. First is direct control. Second is latency benefits. Third is customizable security protocols. Fourth is cost effectiveness for steady workloads. Let me talk more in detail for each category. So for direct control, you basically have full control over hardware, network configuration, and security protocols. If you have an organization with strict internal governance, this can be a main advantage. And second, latency benefits. If your infrastructure and users are located in the same data center or building, you may see a lower latency for data access compared to a remote cloud data center. Third, customizable security protocols. It varies by industries, but some industries require extremely granular security controls. Uh, this means uh, if you have everything on premises, it allows for specialized configurations, which might not be possible or might be really difficult uh, if you use cloud databases. And lastly, cost effectiveness of steady workloads. Say your workload is very predictable and large scale. Owning the hardware can be more cost effective over the long term uh, compared to the compared to ongoing cloud subscription cost. Cons of traditional databases, high upfront cost. So it will require initial investments in not only hardware, but also data center space and potentially licensing. This can be substantial if you are, say, like starting a new company or if you have a limited budget. And if you, and second, limited scalability. It can be slow and expensive to adapt to changing workload requirements because you need to purchase and install new hardware. And maintenance overhead, you are basically responsible for applying patches, updates, and all security protocols. And not only that, you need a skilled IT team to handle these tasks. Disaster recovery complexity. So it can be it will require significant planning, additional resources, and possibly a secondary site if you need to implement uh, high availability and disaster recovery solutions. Pros of cloud-based databases, flexible and on-demand scaling. Uh, Cloud platforms basically let you increase or decrease resources rapidly, which is ideal for businesses that has workloads that fluctuates a lot. So you can think of businesses that has seasonal demands and reduced administrative burden. So these administrative tasks, such as hardware provisioning, server maintenance, and patching, um, they are handled by the cloud providers, which means you are freeing up your IT staff to focus on other numerous tasks that are higher level and lower initial cost because you pay only for the resources you use. You can start really small without having to have large upfront capital expenditures. This is especially beneficial for startups and smaller organizations. And built-in redundancy, as we uh, talked in cons of traditional databases, it can be really difficult to uh, implement disaster recovery solution. But most cloud private providers, they offer geographically distributed data centers. So they have data centers pretty much everywhere in the United States, East Coast, West Coast, and other places in the world, which means uh, having that geographically distributed data centers makes it simpler to uh, implement robust disaster recovery solutions. Cons of cloud based databases, ongoing operating cost. We talked about the pay-as-you-go model, reducing upfront spending, but monthly or annual cost can be greater, especially for large workloads. Potential latency. So this depends on your cloud provider's data center locations and your users. Network latency might be higher compared to an on-premises solution uh, in, in the same building. and reliance on external providers. Because you depend on the cloud providers' maintenance schedules and security updates, you don't have control over your infrastructure. Uh, though providers are highly motivated to maintain uptime, but unexpected outages can happen. Last, compliance and data sovereignty. So if depending on which industry you work for, there are some regulations that require data to remain in specific geographic region. And cloud providers, they do offer region-specific hosting, but you need to make sure that your data location choices align with legal requirements. Use cases and cost considerations. So now you learned about cloud and traditional databases. How can you decide which model is right? Uh, you usually want to choose traditional databases if your organization has a significant existing data center investment, strict latency or data governance requirement, as well as a stable and predictable workload. Uh, you would choose cloud if you need to uh, scale rapidly and you want to reduce administrative overhead or have a highly unpredictable workload. And talking about cost, as we said, on-premises solutions typically involve high capital expenditures, but may have lower ongoing operational expenditures if you fully utilize your hardware, uh, while cloud solutions reduce capital expenditures but can carry uh, variable monthly costs that grow with uses that can be higher. So it's important to always analyze the total cost of ownership over the lifespan of your project, lifespan of your application. So you want to kind of look at hardware, software licensing, personnel, and operational expenses when calculating total cost of ownership. Security, privacy, and compliance, they are critical considerations. One thing to keep in mind is in the cloud, they followed this model called shared responsibility model, which means the provider secures the underlying infrastructure, but the organization or you as a developer are responsible for securing your data, managing user access, and configuring settings. And secure configuration, this applies to both on-prem cloud databases. Misconfigurations can lead to security breaches. So it is always important to implement best practices for encryption, authentication, and network segmentation. Data encryption and audits, cloud providers offer tools for encryption at rest and in transit. For on-premises, you have to handle encryption yourself, and in both models, auditing capabilities help track and manage data access. Regulatory requirements, so compliance standards like HIPAA, GDPR, PCI DSS, and others apply whether you are on-prem or in the cloud. Um, However, the cloud can simplify uh, compliance documentation, but unfortunately, it doesn't eliminate the organization's responsibility. Now, moving on to conclusion. Uh, the conclusion I want you to get is uh, neither cloud-based databases nor traditional on-premises databases are universally superior. The best choice depends on the organization's specific requirements, uh, requirements including performance needs, compliance constraints, scalability, and budget. So some organizations adopt a hybrid approach. So uh, these organizations would keep certain data or applications on premises while leveraging the cloud for the other workload. Thank you everyone for listening.